The 5-second rule, at first glance, might seem almost too simple to be life-changing. After all, how could something as straightforward as counting backward from 5 lead to a massive shift in how you approach life? But it's the very simplicity of the rule that makes it so effective. Developed by Mel Robbins as a tool to help her get out of bed during a particularly difficult time in her life, this rule has since become a powerful science-backed tool to disrupt hesitation and empower people to take action on their goals and dreams. So, how does it work? The idea is this: the moment you feel yourself hesitating before doing something that feels daunting or challenging, but that you know is ultimately good for you, you start counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. By the time you reach 1, you commit to action, no matter how you feel. That action can be anything, big or small, like getting out of bed when you're tempted to hit the snooze button, speaking up in a meeting, or taking the first step toward a major life goal. It may seem trivial, but this method taps into something very powerful: the ability to break the pattern of overthinking that holds so many of us back. What happens in those 5 seconds, and why does it work so well? Research in psychology shows that our brains are wired to avoid discomfort and change, often causing us to hesitate or procrastinate when faced with tasks that feel scary or uncertain. When we think too much about these tasks, we give our brains time to come up with excuses and justifications for not doing them. This is why we tend to avoid challenges even when we know they would be beneficial. By using the 5-second rule, we can trick our brains, giving them no time to enter this avoidance cycle. It's almost like pushing the override button on a habitual response, allowing us to engage the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making and self-control, before we revert to autopilot. But the true genius of the 5-second rule isn't just in interrupting hesitation, it's in its ability to create momentum. When you make the choice to act within those 5 seconds, you take the first step in building confidence and self-trust. Imagine this: if every time you encountered a difficult situation, you counted down from 5 and took action, you'd start accumulating evidence that you are someone who follows through. It might start small, like making a phone call you've been putting off, or deciding to go to the gym when you don't feel motivated, but these actions compound. Over time, you begin to identify as someone who takes action instead of waiting to feel ready, and that is incredibly powerful. What makes the 5-second rule especially effective is that it doesn't rely on motivation or willpower, both of which can be fleeting. Many of us wait to feel motivated before taking action, but motivation is unreliable, it comes and goes. The 5-second rule, on the other hand, works regardless of how you feel. Even if you're feeling uncertain, tired, or afraid, you still have the ability to count down and take action. This is freeing because it separates action from emotion. You don't need to feel confident to take a bold step, you just need to use the rule and act before fear or doubt can set in. The action itself often creates confidence, not the other way around. One of the most impressive aspects of the 5-second rule is its universality. Whether you're trying to improve your health, career, relationships, or personal growth, this rule can be applied to any area of life. For example, if you're working on building a healthier lifestyle, the 5-second rule can help you take the first step to make that workout happen, choose a nutritious meal, or skip a drink you know won't serve you. In a professional setting, it can help you speak up in meetings, take initiative on projects, or even network with people you admire. It's a tool for anyone, at any stage of life, looking to make small, positive changes that add up over time. But like any tool, the 5-second rule requires commitment and practice. The first few times you try it, you might feel silly or even resistant. You might think, does this really work, or this is too simple? But the more you practice, the easier it becomes. Eventually, you build a new habit, the habit of action over hesitation. This creates a sense of empowerment as you start to see how much control you actually have over your life. Instead of being at the mercy of your feelings, doubts, or excuses, you start to live with a greater sense of purpose and agency, and with each small victory, you build momentum that makes it easier to tackle bigger challenges. It's also important to acknowledge that the 5-second rule doesn't eliminate fear or discomfort. Instead, it changes your relationship with them. Fear and doubt don't go away just because you count down from 5. But what happens is that you learn to act in spite of them. You start to see that fear and doubt are just thoughts, they don't have to dictate your actions. When you consistently use the 5-second rule, you're building a new, braver version of yourself, one who's willing to take risks and step outside of their comfort zone. The 5-second rule is a reminder that you don't have to wait to feel ready, confident, or fearless to pursue the life you want. You can start now with 5 simple seconds. In those seconds, you hold the power to change your habits, take charge of your thoughts, and ultimately create a life filled with purpose, action, and self-belief. And perhaps that's why the rule works so well at Scary. It gives you the key to unlock your potential right now without waiting another moment. The idea of high-fiving yourself in the mirror may sound unusual, even silly at first. After all, a high five is something we traditionally reserve for others to celebrate an accomplishment or show encouragement. But what if this simple gesture, something we often overlook in our own lives, could actually change the way we view ourselves, strengthen our confidence, and help us build resilience? The power of high-fiving yourself goes deeper than just a morning ritual. It's about creating a daily moment of self-affirmation, connecting with your inner self, and building a relationship rooted in positivity and support. When Mel Robbins first introduced the concept of the high five habit, many were skeptical. After all, how could something as simple as giving yourself a high five in the mirror have such a profound impact? But if we break down the psychology behind this action, it starts to make sense. Humans are naturally drawn to positive reinforcement and encouragement, and we thrive when we feel supported. From a young age, high fives have been associated with achievement, excitement, and validation. We receive high fives from friends, coaches, and family members when we do something great, and it makes us feel seen and appreciated. But somewhere along the way, we stop celebrating ourselves. We become our harshest critics, constantly focusing on what's wrong, what's missing, and what needs fixing. The high five is a way to reverse that narrative. When you high five yourself in the mirror, you're not just performing a physical action, you're making a psychological shift. For most people, looking in the mirror brings up thoughts of criticism and self-judgment. They see their flaws, notice things they wish they could change, and often start the day with a critical mindset. The act of giving yourself a high five is a powerful way to disrupt that negative self-talk. Instead of starting the day by picking yourself apart, you're starting with a small celebration of who you are, just as you are. This simple action tells your brain that you're worthy of kindness and support, and it sets a more positive tone for the day. On a neurological level, the high five gesture releases a bit of dopamine, the feel-good chemical that boosts our mood. So when you high five yourself, you're not only giving yourself a moment of encouragement, but also literally lifting your mood. Over time, this daily boost can contribute to improved mental health, increased self-esteem, and greater resilience. The brain starts associating the mirror with positive reinforcement rather than criticism, which gradually shifts your self-image in a healthier direction. It may sound small, but these daily moments build up and begin to create a new, more supportive relationship with yourself. There's also a powerful concept called mirror neurons at work here. Mirror neurons are part of our brain's wiring that helps us mimic and empathize with others' actions. When we see someone smile, for example, we often feel compelled to smile back. When you high five yourself in the mirror, your brain recognizes the gesture as one of encouragement and support, as it would if you were high fiving someone else. Essentially, you're tricking your brain into feeling like you've received a supportive gesture from another person, even though it's coming from yourself. This taps into your brain's natural inclination to respond positively to encouragement and validation. The high five isn't about telling yourself that everything is perfect or that you don't have areas for growth. It's about showing up for yourself as you are, even when things aren't perfect, and choosing to be kind rather than critical. When you make the choice to high five yourself, you're acknowledging that, despite any struggles or imperfections, you are deserving of encouragement. This shift has profound effects on our inner dialogue. Instead of approaching challenges with a sense of inadequacy or defeat, you begin to feel more capable and willing to face obstacles head-on. The high five becomes a symbol of commitment to yourself, a daily reminder that you're on your own side. Beyond the individual benefits, this habit can also improve how we interact with others. When we start treating ourselves with more kindness and respect, we tend to show up more positively in our relationships. We're less likely to project our insecurities onto others or look for validation from external sources. High-fiving yourself creates a solid foundation of self-worth and acceptance, which in turn allows you to be more present, compassionate, and understanding with those around you. Instead of seeking approval or reassurance, you become the source of your own support, which is incredibly empowering. The simplicity of this ritual makes it accessible, but consistency is key. It might feel awkward or strange at first, especially if you're not used to engaging in positive self-talk or gestures. But like any habit, the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. Over time, the high five in the mirror evolves into a genuine moment of self-recognition. It's a small act, but it sends a big message that you are worth showing up for, that you're worthy of kindness, and that you have your own back. The power of high-fiving yourself is that it creates a shift from within. Rather than waiting for others to validate you, you're learning to validate yourself. It's not about arrogance or vanity, it's about giving yourself the same support and encouragement you'd give a friend. Imagine the impact of starting every day with a moment of self-acceptance. Instead of carrying the weight of self-doubt, you're building a foundation of self-respect and resilience. This simple ritual reminds you that no matter what happens, you are on your own team. In the grand scheme of things, high-fiving yourself in the mirror might seem insignificant, but its effects are anything but. It's a tool that helps us reconnect with ourselves, see our worth, and embrace a kinder, more empowering relationship with ourselves. High-fiving yourself might be a small act, but its message is profound. You are enough, you are worthy of support, and you deserve to feel celebrated not just by others, but by yourself. And over time, this small, daily habit has the power to transform the way you see yourself, the way you think about yourself, and ultimately, the way you show up in the world.